It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio. Flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome on Facebook and Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show and at Mike Now on Twitter.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
And good morning and happy, I'd say it's some kind of holiday. I think it's this. No, is it, do we get presents today? Do we get turkey and mashed potatoes? No, that's not it. Do we get to count down and then drink champagne? Something like that.
You could.
Yeah, that's true. I could. So, I had my Thunder shirt on last night. It worked really well. I slept well and I was very calm. So I'm sure a lot of other folks were wearing their Thunder shirts. And we have a special. Okay, I decided I'm going to do this. Okay, folks. Whoops. If I know how to hold this properly. Okay. Here we go, folks. Welcome to Lagata Cam. And and there she is. Hey, oh, look at that. And she's on somebody's feet here.
Hey, Mike, whose feet is she on?
I don't know, but all we know is that on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, shoes, socks, and pants are optional, always. And there she is. Hey, Lagata, how you doing? You just gonna... This is odd because she's never here underneath. She just usually takes off. She's done when...
She's still hiding. She doesn't have her Thunder shirt on, so she's still hiding.
Yeah, well, there's no fireworks going off here, so that's a good thing. And shh, be very, very quiet. And there she is. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, yeah, we got a shot of my cat lying at my feet here. This is why you need to watch the live stream on YouTube. Go to YouTube and sign up for the Mike Nowak Show. And we're still on Facebook for now at the Mike Nowak Show. Yeah. We're not really sure how long that's going to last. We'll go back to...
Amos says, yay, Lagata Cam is live.
Lagata Cam is... I need one of those fancy little titles for it with a flashing red light, that kind of thing. And Lagata Cam, Lagata Cam, Lagata Cam. So that's what I wear. Hey, listen, I'm just happy I got the Lagata Cam up and not have the whole system go crashing to the ground, which is, And by the way, we got that fixed, I think. I'm knocking...
No.
Don't poke the bear. Anything. Don't poke the bear. I'm poking the bear. But yeah, we think we're good. Yeah, no, easy. Not with a pen. Welcome to the show.
Dan Costa says, good to see Lagata too. See, she's taken over the show already.
All right. Well, then do we just go back to her and we just show
get coffee.
Lagata stuff all day long? It's all, but she's not very entertaining right now.
She doesn't normally look that spotted either. It's the angle she's at.
Oh, I don't know. She's, I had a friend of the family come over, and first time she met Lagata, she said, "Moo, moo." Oh well. Hey, Lagata, you're a star. You're a star, sweetie. All right. Back to this. Back to reality. Hey, folks, we got a great show today. We got some really cool people, great experts, especially for those of you in the Chicago area. And we had storms here. You know, there are storms all over the country. But recently we went through we had tornadoes here. We had, oh my gosh, we had rain. And this was all following a drought. And we're still in a drought, as we're going to find out from meteorologist Rick DiMaio. I looked at the maps. They changed a little bit, not a whole lot. Even though I didn't even look at, you know what, during the break, I might run out to my backyard. I forgot to look at my my rain gauge. But, you know, last week I had 7.5 inches of rain. This week, I don't know. But we had another incident with the rain barrel. So I got to go out and fix the rain barrel. One of them.
And then Chicago got all that rain, but up here got nothing.
That's right. That's the point. You guys, which is in northern Illinois, going into southern Wisconsin, really not so much rain. So again, that's a good reason to have the folks who are on today talking about tree care, which we're going to do, especially storm damage, but we're also going to get into watering properly because it's still an issue. And what happens when you have a drought for a few months and then suddenly you get 7.5 inches of rain in your yard? What does that do to your trees and your other plants? Frankly, because we have Julie Janoski, who is the manager of the plant clinic at the Morton Arboretum, and we have Skeet, and we'll get to him in a second. He is an arborist, a certified arborist from Bartlett Tree Experts, and they, in full disclosure, are the primary sponsor of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, but we love it because they give us such great advice. And then in the second hour, we go back out to Lake Michigan and the Magic Hedge, which is the part of the bird sanctuary at Montrose Point. And there is some construction. Well, we got Monty and Rose out there who are back. Their eggs got eaten by a skunk several weeks ago. Guess what? They got back on the nest. They've got 4 more eggs. We assume they're going to hatch soon. They have offspring on the shores of Lake Erie, producing more piping plovers.
So they are grand plovers now, yes.
They are grand plovers. It's a great story. And then in the midst of this, the Chicago Park District is doing construction at the bird sanctuary. And that has some people scratching their heads. And we will talk to Bob Dolgan from This Week in Birding. He will explain what is going on. And, of course, as I mentioned before, meteorologist Rick DiMaio will be here to talk. I don't even know how he keeps up right now with all the weather stuff going on all over the world. Certainly the country and all over the world. And we know that there are a lot of Rick DiMaio fans, so we're happy to have him. He doesn't get a whole hour this week. He's just getting his usual, 25 minutes or so. But that's like 3 times as long as most meteorologists get anywhere on the radio or on
a day sometimes.
I'm sorry?
Over a course of a day, they might get that amount of time.
Exactly. So with that said, let us go to our guests here. And hold on a second, folks, while I pop your mics on the left, on the bottom. That is Skeet, who is a certified arborist with Bartlett Tree Experts. Skeet, great to see you.
Good morning, everybody. Happy 4th of July.
Oh, that's the holiday. Okay.
That's the holiday.
That's the holiday. Okay.
You gotta change that calendar from June to July.
Is it on June behind him? Do you?
No, you.
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. I see. I don't have any calendars. Maybe that's why I don't know what the holiday is. And Skeet works out of the Bolingbrook office, which, for those of you who are not from Chicago, is a suburb west of Chicago, kind of southwest, right? Would you say, Skeet?
Perfect, yes.
Yeah. And you were almost at ground zero. Uh-oh. Legata's leaving. I don't know if we're going to have a chance. The show gets going and she's out of here. So that might be it for Legata Cam. But Bolingbrook was kind of ground zero for a couple 3 tornadoes that came by 2 weeks ago.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Skeet sent me 8,000 pictures and we're going to see a lot of them this morning. So welcome, Skeet. And then the person on the right, Julie Janoski. And am I pronouncing it? Is that how you pronounce your last name, Julie?
It is.
Okay, great. And she is the manager at the plant clinic at the Morton Arboretum, and she gets inundated with all kinds of plant questions every day. And has to deal with them. Unlike Skeet, who gets to go on site and examine a tree firsthand, often you're doing it, via email and probably texts and pictures and people bringing in samples. Tell me how that works, Julie.
So the plant clinic at the Morton Arboretum is a free service that the Arboretum offers to the public, and you can call us, you can email us, you can send us pictures in our email, you can walk in if you're on site, and we answer about 17,000 questions a year for somewhere between 8 and 10,000 people a year. And we do that with staff, and then we have a dedicated core of volunteers who are well trained in horticulture as well.
Okay, and that's what a lot of reputable arboreta and botanical gardens do. Many of them have plant clinics, and it's a great service for folks because this is how you get your questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's a personalized service, so you can call anytime. We also happen to have about 750 pages on our website about different trees and plants, and common questions, and then we publish something called the Plant Healthcare Report during the growing season, which talks about what you should be looking for right now in your garden, what pests, what diseases, what should be blooming, what weeds should be popping up. So that's available also.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Go ahead, Peggy.
I was going to say, and you don't need to be a member of the Arboretum to take advantage of these services.
Not at all. We're a free service to the public.
Yeah, and the Plant Healthcare Report, that along with the University of Illinois Extension newsletter, those are the two go-to things, messages and newsletters that I get that I love. You can go through and see everything that's going on in the plant world. Usually, well, not everything. They have to highlight. You got to highlight the things that are most important because it's hard to cover absolutely everything. But they're invaluable. And Peggy, if you get a chance, maybe you can put the links for both of those up there. I didn't even think about that when I it's second nature for me. I just get them and
they're in my
refer.
inbox. So
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of folks probably don't even know about the Plant Healthcare Report from the Morton Arboretum, and you can go to the Morton Arboretum website, mortonarb.org, and find that. You just type in Plant Healthcare Report, and boom, it'll take you right there. Whereas we'll need to send you the link to the University of Illinois Extension newsletter, and they're both great. And I highly recommend, even if you don't live in Illinois, if you live in the Midwest, they're going to come in handy for you. So that's a great start here. So Skeet, let's get to you and start with you. I'm going to ask. On 2 weeks ago on Sunday, how did you first get wind that something was wrong and you were going to have a busy couple of weeks coming up?
Well, it's interesting. How did I get wind of that? That would be a Mike Nowak question of a tornado.
There we go.
Yes. Well, it happened that night when my beautiful bride said, hey, the sirens are going off. So that would be the first, indication that that the next day is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And so then it was a matter of getting up extra early and radio, news, phone, getting updates and seeing what was happening, and then driving to work, taking a different route to get to work and get to work early and get a little taste of the destruction. And just this horrific, life-changing event, and getting into the office and getting into a storm damage mode at the office and seeing what we need to do to take care of our clients. And it's about the people, then the trees.
Yeah.
And what can we do to take care of our own people? Safety first. It's a way of life for our business.
Yeah.
And then receiving the calls, the emails, the pictures, and as we have fun with words, triage the worst first, and just working our way through safely.
Yeah, you know what? I was just going to pop up a photo, and this is the way these things work. You sent me a photo, and I'm going to find it now, but of course, it has suddenly disappeared. It was the one photo I was going to start with, and suddenly, whoop, it's not there. But it was of the folks. You sent me a photo of folks walking down the street, and you said they kind of looked like zombies. This was the day after. And it really had that feel to it. And explain what that was.
Sure. The tornado came through in the middle of the night. And so this was dark, scary. People were inside. And so the next morning, the photo is of an association. I've been very fortunate. They've trusted me for 25 years. And I've never seen this many people out walking and talking to neighbors and decompressing, and each person had their own story of the event, and then walking through the damaged trees. As we're trying to explain, this is not a great place you want to be walking. And cars are driving around trees and streets, and people are walking, and it was, you're the wordsmith, Mike, and I'm going to do my best to explain that people were socializing with each other, decompressing of this event, talking with each other, and then walking around their friends, being the trees, and really saying goodbye to their friends.
And there's the photo there. It's I managed to track it down, and you can see
Perfect.
that. Yeah, and they were kind of at a loss as to what to do at that point, weren't they?
What to do, what to say. I mean, again, this is life-changing events, and and we need to be very respectful to these people as we're nicely explaining. We got big trucks, big equipment, and we're here to resolve the situation, which means destroying the trees and chipping them up and making the situation safer. And that's the tough part of what we do, because when you have a tree like this, it's not going to be put back. It's not going to be saved. It needs to get cleaned up. We need to get some resolution. We need to get this out of the street for their own safety. Cars are coming around this. People are walking around. So it's a process, or people first. This also shows an example of Norway maples and the situation of girdling roots. And you can see this incredible girdling roots around these Norway maples that they, like an umbrella, popped out of the ground with the horrific winds.
Skeet, for viewers who might not know what girdling roots are, could you please explain?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Peggy. Girdling roots are roots that, instead of coming out around coming down and growing lateral along the ground, they would twist and circle the trunks of the tree. So they go around. Sometimes you see this, like you pull a tree out of a 5-gallon bucket and you see those roots encircling the tree. Well, if that tree is planted without having those roots untangled or unfurled or cut, they would just circle around the trunk of the tree. And that black line around the base of the tree is an indication that tree had girdling roots. And so it already had a weakened root system. It doesn't have that normal root flare or bulge, or it looks like a telephone pole.
Right.
And that's the indication of roots going around the tree as opposed to going out away from the tree. And in this section of this association, there were many, many Norway maples, wonderful shade, thick, dense, and yet when you have a horrific windstorm like we had, a tornado, these were just popped out of the ground like umbrellas and carried down the street. Yeah.
It's because they were not anchored properly into the ground, and so they were susceptible. On the other hand, almost any tree will succumb to those kinds of winds, right, Skeet?
Correct, and we've got some other pictures where trees have twisted and broke, sheared, or the tops have been broken. And that's a different type of storm damage. There you go. Thank you, Mike. You're aces. Where that's a ash tree. That was a tree we've treated and survived emerald ash borer, and we're proud of this tree. And yet the tornado came in and twisted the top. Same wind, same area. This was across the street, and so that tree had a different anchoring point, had a better root system, root flare, and so the storm damage is different on this tree than it would be on a Norway maple tree.
And here's another one. This is
Yes.
yet another tree, and again, this tree is still in the ground, but it has suffered. And now, I asked you this question the other day. For those of you watching or listening, rather, to the podcast, there's still some branches on this tree, but it has been really devastated by the winds. And the question I asked Skeet is can you save this tree?
Save's a tough word. We could certainly prune out the broken split limbs, and we would expose that tree to so much potential decay in there that it would not be a long-standing. We would not be doing that tree or the neighborhood a service by leaving that tree, and better to start over with right tree, right spot, right way, than it would be to be setting that tree up for failure and disappointment down the road, because that the decay would get into that tree quicker than the healing would, because the amount of destruction in that tree.
And I mentioned that's something you have. Go ahead, Peggy.
I was going to say, especially in the middle of the summer versus winter, right? Where more insects and everything else can get in now.
Yes, and good point. Yes, in the what we don't see from the picture is when we get close to the tree, we examine each one of these trees, is there's also shears and cracks going down internally into that tree.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and like
Structural.
I didn't mean
Structural, perfect.
Let's pull this out. I'm going to see this this tree. This is another one that still has limbs, but it almost looks like it's been topped. Like the top of the tree was taken off, and that's not a good thing to do to a tree, and that's not going to lead to its survival, is it?
Correct. And in these pictures have been shown to the association as we've been making these decisions with explanations of what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and the reasons beyond just to cut down trees for the sake that they've been damaged. There's many trees, and what I should have sent you is some before and after pictures of the trees we have saved out at the association.
Yeah.
Just in the excitement of getting pictures to you, I've sent you the worst. I've not sent you here's what we did to save the trees too.
No, that's okay. I mean, we know what trees look like before, and that's certainly the after the photo. So now I'm going to go to Julie and ask you the same question: is how did you find out about it, and how did you gear up for what was going to be an onslaught?
Yeah, so I found out about it via email. I was fortunately out of town. But Plant Clinic got a lot of calls about what to do about their trees, and we spent a lot of time explaining safety issues. There might be downed wires, there might be loose limbs, and that they should be calling somebody like Skeet right away, to a certified arborist, to help them safely evaluate and remove these trees. We can look at a picture and tell somebody, okay, that looks like it might survive, but we can't see that structural damage that somebody who's on site can see. And so we spent a lot of time that week really directing people to professionals like Skeet who can come on site, evaluate the trees, remove what needed to be removed. Our thing about storms is that once a storm occurs, everybody's like, well, what do I do? And our point is really, how can you prepare your plants for these sorts of events? A tornado, you're not going to be able to keep the tree safe, But if you're pruning properly, if you plant properly, if you make sure they're healthy and that kind of thing, they're going to stand up to these windstorms, to this damage much better if you do some advanced care rather than waiting until it's popped out of the ground like an umbrella, as Skeet was saying.
Wow. And you bring up a couple of really good points, which are, first, is that that saw, Peggy? Is that what you were talking about?
Yes.
That is, it's almost the perfect sound effect for this. Like, okay, now we're taking out the trees. Wow.
Chop saw.
Okay. I love it when you turn it on and we keep hearing that.
That's not me.
I know, but it's hilarious. Julie, you give good advice, which is to say, well, we're not there, but also it's look up, look down. Are wires affected? What else is nearby? And safety first, which is Bartlett Tree Experts' motto. And get both of you back in here to talk about the safety aspect of it. There are people who think they can go out and handle it themselves, or at least some of it themselves. And I would guess that both of you say, you know what, you should leave that to the experts. Julie, start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. People say, oh, it's just one hanging limb. I can go up there and cut it off. But if you're standing on the ladder with a chainsaw, with a 600-pound limb, there's all kinds of ramifications to that. It could hit something else. It could hit you. It could come down in the wrong direction. So yeah, we absolutely tell people to go contact somebody who has the proper safety training, has the proper safety equipment, one, to evaluate what's going on with that particular tree, but also to make sure that you're not hurting yourself or somebody else in doing that.
Yeah. And Skeet, you must, okay, I have two questions for you. One is that, the safety thing, but it's also, if you have a client who's had an issue like this, I imagine because your business, they have to come first. But I imagine at the same time, you're getting all kinds of phone calls from people who are not clients who say, how soon can you get out? You have to go to your clients first, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I'll take the second question first. Yeah. It's clients first. I mean, that's the way it is. They're clients. They've trusted us. There's a relationship built there. And so we take care of our existing clients. It's very simple. It's just that easy. We're going to take care of our clients first.
Well, what about the safety?
As far as the safety point of this goes, for homeowners, this is unfortunate time when a lot of different interesting tree companies come out, and so proper insurance. I mean, gee whiz. I mean, you've got a dangerous tree in your yard. You just got to make sure the people that are working on that are insured. And you should not be embarrassed as a homeowner to say, I'd like to see a certificate of your insurance. And I'm going to call your insurance company to make sure this is not just generated over the internet. So, which happens. And so you want to make sure the people that are working in your property are insured, and so are you. Accredited tree care company, certified arborist. I mean, again, quick decisions are made. People are just not used to this mode.
Yeah.
And so I just can't stress enough, the people on your property got to be insured, because it could go from bad to worse real quick. And so that's critical. But
that said, I imagine you also tell people, back away from the tree unless it's in your window and you need, to get it out. And there are circumstances. I mean, you sent me photos. I don't even know if we're going to have a chance to get to them, of complete homes that were gone, and a whole row of homes boarded up because they had all sustained so much damage that they were not livable. That's crazy stuff. It's, so the idea that you think you can go out there and, don't worry, I'll take care of my own tree that's just been damaged by a tornado, is probably a pretty dangerous thing.
Or a microburst, or a windstorm, or
Yes. And it's a tough one here, Mike, because people, and Peggy, people want to do something, and in our chippers, we could put 100-foot limb in that chipper. We can put it at one end and it chews it up 100 feet. And then we have the homeowner that says, hey, that 100-foot limit, boy, I helped you out. I cut it into 2-foot pieces. Oh, so now we've got 50 limbs to carry? Oh, boy.
I'm sorry.
But that's the reality land. I get there, I look at it and say, don't do a thing, we got you covered. And then we get there in the morning and they go, oh, look, I helped you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really? Not really. And yet they feel like they want to do something. They feel helpless.
I get it.
And it, the last thing you want to do is say, what the heck were you doing?
Yeah, you can't do that, obviously, but boy, boy, they got that chainsaw. It's been sitting in the garage for 3 years, and now they can fire that baby up and let's go. And matter of fact, I can help my neighbors all the way down the street. It's like Peggy right now with her neighbor doing that. So there you go.
Yeah. I'm hearing a chainsaw down the street too.
Are you?
It's
you got a little bit.
There's a chop saw next door and a chainsaw down the block. So, here we are.
All right. Well, we need to take a break here. But for those of you watching us this morning, and I say watching because I'm going to pop up something on the screen here that this is a quiz. And we are going to entertain answers. And you know what? If folks...
Entertaining answers.
We will, and yes, and we would like entertaining answers. And if folks have any idea what this is, because this is when we get into our chemical talk in the next half hour, Skeet sent this to me, and if you can tell me what this is, and put your answers on the screen there, and we'll see if anybody gets this right. Because Skeet, I tried last night. I could not figure this out. Okay. And here's the graphic. What is this product? Original 3-in-1 fluid, flammable, poison, contains methanol, and danger, Will Robinson is all over that label. Any idea, folks, what this is? Apparently, it must be a popular product because it's the original, whatever it is. And I'll be honest, Skeet, I have no idea what this was. I tried to figure it out, and I took the clues the best I could. Of course, I was trying to put the show together, too, so I didn't have that much time. But there you go. If anybody knows what this... You know who might know? Dan Costa. I bet he's a guy who might figure this out. But so...
I have a guess what it is.
Mike, the good news is we're not in California because it's known in the state of California to cause birth defects.
Okay. Well, yeah, sometimes I want to be in California just for that reason because they get ahead of the curve on this. So there you go. That is our contest for this morning. I may pop that up again in case folks want to see the label one more time. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking trees. We're talking storm damage. We'll be talking planting and chemicals and other stuff. So stick around. You have the ability to give your soil a superpower. It's called composting. If you don't have a backyard, you need to contact Collected Resource Compost. CRC has diverted 7,000 tons of food scraps since 2010. They bring you a fresh 5-gallon bucket or a 32-gallon neighbor tote with each pickup. You fill it with organic matter from your kitchen, they swap it out and get it to a commercial composting operation. Fight climate change. Go to collectiveresource.us.
Once upon a time, in a place called Mzansi, the people loved driving cars everywhere. They used lots and lots of electricity and chopped down many trees for firewood. And then a very strange thing happened. The weather began to change. In some places there were droughts where before there was rain. In other places, the rivers flooded. The grown-ups realized they were contributing to the strange weather. They discovered if they used clean energy and less electricity, they could save Mzansi for their children.
What happened then?
How the story unfolds is up to each and every one of us. Switch off, recycle, change. Help save tomorrow, today.
Whether you're a farmer or a backyard gardener, assist your soil in providing key nutrients to your plants with Spectrum Soil Inoculum from Tineo Biologicals. The beneficial microorganisms in Spectrum break down and release vital nutrients and make them more accessible to your plants. Spectrum works with nature to decompose organic matter into humus, building richer, healthier soil. Spectrum is approved for use on certified organic crops and is OMRI listed. Get Spectrum at blazing-star.com. And, whoa, there he is. We lost you there for a second, Skeet. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we're talking trees this morning. Skeet from Bartlett Tree Experts, Julie Janoski from the Morton Arboretum, the plant clinic at the Morton Arboretum. And I should mention, I'd be remiss if I didn't, that Bartlett is the sponsor of the plant clinic at the Morton Arboretum, so they're all over the place. You work for a good outfit there, Skeet, and of course, full disclosure, they are the primary sponsor of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we're proud of that. All right, let's talk a little bit, and let me just, I'm going to whip through these really quick, Skeet, because this is some of the damage that I mentioned before that we didn't get a chance to see. There used to be a house there, right?
Yes, sir.
And that just that
and trees. Yeah.
And trees, right? Here's another view of that. And then you took some shots here. This is that row of homes. As you can see, they're all boarded up, which means they're not safe to live in right now. And when that happens to a community, wow. There's just there's not, and I mean I could go through and show you some more of the photos, but it's sort of, you know, some of them, the trees like this got ripped out of the ground. You know, not all of them got snapped, but then some ended up like this. That is just denuded. There's nothing left of that tree. And others again like this. I mean, we could go on for days just showing these. Oh, but I have to show this one. Skeet, I'm so glad you took this photo. This is stunning. Explain what we've got there, Skeet.
That is a downspout that came off of a house, not on the ground, but off the side of the building. And then the velocity of the winds, fortunately, the light pole was there to catch that before it hit anybody or anything else other than a light pole. Yes.
Isn't that amazing? And that's what I was thinking, too, is that it is lucky that the pole caught that and it wrapped itself around that pole. And that is just absolutely amazing and unlike anything you might see. So now I want to go to, let me find, we've talked about storm damage. Go ahead, Peg.
I was going to say, do you have the one photo of, I presume it was a large oak that was toppled over with the flag in front of it so you can see how huge the roots are?
No, I don't have that. Where did,
okay. That was from
I think
Skeet.
that was a white pine that fell onto the fire station. And then we also had the photo of the two pear trees, one destroyed, one standing.
Oh, right. I am so sorry. I missed that. I am so sorry. And
No
loading
pressure,
all the...
Mike, as I stand here and direct your show.
Well, the reason I brought that one up was I think Skeet had commented, and I could be wrong, Skeet had commented because of all the drought and then all the rain, how that affected just the roots being able to pull out.
Yeah, and you know, there were just so many it slipped through the cracks, and I apologize for that. But I want to show you this. I want to show you this photo and ask folks out there, what is the connection between this photo and this photo? And there is a connection between the two. And I'm going to let Julie start.
So
what?
Yeah. So we moved on from storm damage.
Right. We're going into something else, and these things are connected. This is not storm damage, Julie. What are we looking at?
So this is actually herbicide damage, broadleaf herbicide damage. People don't recognize that when they put their lawn chemicals down, that if the weather is too hot or too dry, some of that product can aerolize and it can damage the leaves on your trees. Or in the picture of that other one, if you continuously treat a root system that's susceptible, you can actually hurt your trees with some of those products. So you want to be really careful about when you use those products, where you use those products. It's, broadleaf herbicide damage. If you live near a farm, sometimes if they're treating the fields with those types of products, you can get much more severe damage. But you want to be aware, even in your local neighborhoods, of how much of those products that you're using. This is not necessarily herbicide damage.
Okay, I was wondering because it didn't have a label on it, and I was going. So you think that this might be a disease that we're talking about?
This actually could be anthracnose, which is a disease, or it could be some drought damage. You'll notice that most of the damage is between the veins. The veins are what move water.
Yeah.
And so if you start to see drought damage, you're going to see it along the edges, or you're going to see it intraveinally like this. So that's, not necessarily herbicide damage.
Could it be?
Possibly. Usually with herbicide damage, what we're seeing distorted leaves. They might be smaller. You are seeing some distortion on this.
Yeah.
But my guess is that this is not herbicide damage.
Well, let's go back then to this one because, Skeet, this is one of your trees, and tell me what you know about this.
Okay. This is a super duper nice client, great guy, and I just felt horrible when he called me and went out there and walked. This is in the backyard, and seeing this over the top of the house, the initial reaction is yikes, and it's going to take a little work to investigate, and that's what we're here for. And so, taking a look of the surroundings and what's going on. We do have another picture of the low sprouts in the tree, and that immediately was the red flag, and then you'll see the wilting, withering of the leaves, and there you go. Thank you, Mike. This is definitely some kind of chemical herbicide damage, and him and I have talked about this, and the challenge is we certainly don't want to go there and blame somebody, and this is not a finger-pointing exercise. Nobody does this on purpose, and it was not Bartlett tree experts out there. It was another contractor or neighbor or somebody else did something on the property, and this was the result. And so we just want to find out, and the homeowner wants to find out how this happened, why it happened, and not to continue it, because to the right or to the south of this big oak tree is another tree that is starting to exhibit the same effects of this application. What we suspect, and I do not know, I suspect is there's underneath this tree, you'll see there's a gorgeous outdoor carpet, and we suspect something was put on that carpet that then went through the carpet that is now affecting the oak roots, and the oak is taking up this product, and this is the result of an application. So the homeowner's devastated, and as you look to the neighbor's property, there's no other trees affected onto the neighbor's property, and so we're just trying to narrow this down so it does not continue.
And yeah, so is that tree savable at this point?
With chemical or herbicide or this type of damage, we don't know. There's no formula for this. It depends on what was put down, how much was put down, the species, and so there's no formula. On this much devastation this quickly, I do not have good news. And even if half the tree was saved in this tree and where it's located, I would be doubtful the homeowner would want that look. And so it's going to be a wait and see situation.
And Julie, you mentioned you saw this the other day and mentioned something about that gravel path there under the tree that might be causing other problems.
Well, it depends on when it was put in. This tree looks much older than that dry riverbed.
Yeah.
Oak trees hate to have their roots disturbed, and if they had to dig down, even 8 or 12 inches, they cut most of the root system of this tree off. If that's what they did, I don't have the backstory on this one,
Right.
of course. But you can do a lot of damage by even edging. If you go down and edge, that nice neat circle around your tree, and edge down 4 to 6 inches. You're cutting off some pretty significant roots, and now the tree has to survive on what's inside that circle. So you want to be really careful. Most tree roots are horizontal. They don't go deep, as we've all grown up to think that, the tree underneath looks just like the tree above ground. What's true is that it actually, most of the roots are in the top 12 to 24 inches of soil, and they're very horizontal, and they can spread 2 to 3 times the width of the canopy. So, we've gotten pictures where somebody put a patio in all the way around a beautiful tree, and then next season it died, and they don't quite understand what happened. Well, to put a good patio in, you have to dig down 12 to 14 inches to put your underlayment in, and then put the brick on, and they've cut all the roots off. So you just want to be aware of what's below ground as well as what's above ground.
All right. I want to put some other photos up here. That this is from a presentation that Skeet does, and I suspect this is some of the same issue that we've been talking about. I don't know what that species. It looks like it might be a burning bush, but maybe it's not.
Nice job. Those are burning bush.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what people grow. They love their burning bushes. And I always say, can't you find something else? Find a nice native plant. But they love that color in the fall. So 2 of these guys look like they're in trouble. Skeet.
Yes. This is another fantastic homeowner who called us and said, boy, my shrubs don't look real good. And so just walking up, a professional would know immediately what's going on. And what's going on is you look at the rocks and look at the mulch ring and look at the stone or the boulders around there. And you see there's not a whole lot of weeds going on in that bed. And you look at the yellow edges around those boulders around the outside there.
Yeah.
This is somebody's doing some heavy herbiciding. And so they have achieved a success. There is no weeds in that bed, and
nothing's growing there.
There'll be nothing growing in there. And so you got to put a couple little mushroom landscape features in there, so you got a little life in that bed. Even if they're fake, and so and then this is the bummer because there's so many great products out there, and yet we see these products, and we're seeing this more and more and more. I really got to emphasize this. We're seeing this more and more, that this Roundup Extended or Roundup 365, boy, yeah, there we go. Cool. Thanks, Mike. Let's throw this down. We just need to put it down once, and it works for 365 days. Holy moly, this is some, when the bottle says kills in big bold letters, it sure does. And hopefully there's nothing else in that bed you want to live, because this kills and prevents for 12 months, one application. And so if you really want to kill it dead, boy, you could do this 2 or 3 times. And then that bed, I bet it was put down a few times.
More is better. There you go. Yep.
Yeah, if some is good, more is better. It's the American way.
Right. And we're seeing this more and more. And for people that are just not educated, and for some of the lawn companies that are out there, instead of doing monthly shots, you could just put this down once, and boy, you're done for the year. And for the homeowner, time's valuable. Why not put this down once?
Yeah. Okay. That leads me to a question that I have for both of you, and I don't know if you can answer it, but it's something that I've thought about for a long time, because I've been preaching the dangers of rampant chemical use in yards. My feeling personally is that 95% of the time you don't need anything, and that you're just wasting your money, and you're hurting the soil, and you're hurting plants, and you're hurting
water. runoff.
You're hurting the biology, and the thing about Roundup is they have all these different products. You just showed the Roundup 365, which you can. But the whole point of Roundup in the first place was you apply it, the plant absorbs it, it doesn't persist in the soil. Boom, done, we move on. What happened to that philosophy that Roundup was, there are people out there now who say Roundup is completely benign. All right, it's totally benign. You shouldn't worry about anything as long as you use it properly. Nothing bad is going to happen. But the problem is in America, as we said, is people don't use it properly. They don't read and follow label directions, which is why when I talk to people, and this is me, radio guy and garden guy who goes out and talks to garden groups, I say, no. If you ask me whether you should use this product, I say no. And the reason is because I don't think you're going to use it right. Now, if you can prove me wrong, great. But that is my problem with it. Julie?
If I could say, we prefer to look at it the other way and ask people to look at the active ingredient and read the labels. The labels are legally how this product should be used. And the government, whether you believe that or not, that's entirely your choice, has said that if you use this product according to the label, then it is safe to use. So we tell people, though, to read the labels. People don't follow the safety instructions. Roundup, even when it first came out, first of all, the imidacloprid, or the glyphosate is that product that gets absorbed by the plant. Some of those other products that were in the active ingredients of 365, plus the percentage of glyphosate in that, is going to ensure that, you're pretty much going to have some reaction in the soil. So you need to read the labels. You need to understand what they're telling you on the labels, and you need to protect yourself, because obviously there have been some lawsuits about Roundup, but people need to wear gloves. It's all about how much exposure you have. So the product says wear gloves, wear long sleeves, wear long pants, wash those clothes separately. That's the kind of product that this is. And if you read the label, you can then decide whether you're willing to take that risk or not to kill a few of those weeds, in that bed, or if you'd rather just sit out there and pull them out.
Yeah, and if you and you talked about active ingredients. If you looked at this label, the 365, the glyphosate is 18%. That's a lot of product. And then it's got imazapic, ammonium salt, that's 1.6, and diquat dibromide, 0.73. That's not very much, but that's an unholy trio there. And this one is amazing. You mentioned the labels, and Skeet sent this to me, and this is wonderful. It says, if you look on the right side, do not use in areas that will be planted or seeded within 4 months, or around unestablished plants, shrubs, or trees. Holy smoke. And so this is the Roundup extended control, and there are so many different Roundup products now. About 15 years ago, I did a talk where there were at least 8, and I'll bet there's 3 times that number now. It's just amazing how much is out there and how much mischief you can get into just by buying these products.
Right. People need to understand that it's now. Go ahead, Skeet.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. I would just reiterate what Julie's saying. What we're looking at is, unfortunately, the exceptions, and we're looking at what people have not used the product correctly. This is not a time to beat up on Roundup. It's more of a time to remind people that it's the right product, the right way, the right use, read the label. This is more of a applicator situation than it is the actual chemical product or the chemical name or the chemical company. This is people just not doing what's correct on the label.
I get that, Skeet. I get that. It's a combination of both. Okay, it is a product that is on purpose very toxic, and folks who get sold. The problem also is advertising. They get sold to build goods because they don't say on TV, they just say read and follow label directions. They don't say if you put this near a new tree, you're going to kill it. And that would be honest, but they weave and dodge and say this is, you're going to love this product because it kills right away. And that is the whole point.
And the homeowner goes, oh, cool, just what I need. I got 5 seconds to get it done.
All right.
And they're not trained.
It's a suite of products, and read the labels. I mean,
right.
The labels are a legal document. Read the labels.
Exactly. Okay. We're running out of time, but I wanted to get something, and Julie, to something, and that was about planting trees, and we never ever have enough time to talk about tree selection, and we won't today. But I will advise people that if they want to know what trees to plant in their yard, go to the Morton Arboretum, go to their website, look at their selections there, and then talk to their arborist, talk to people like Julie at the plant clinic, and describe your situation and what you have, what you want to accomplish, and that will help. What I want to ask you, Julie, real quick, and Skeet, you too, and then I want to show some planting photos before we go. We had this severe drought, and then some areas had a bunch of rain dumped on them. What happens to a plant, and we'll start with you, Julie, when you're in a drought for months and months, and then suddenly you get 8 inches of rain?
Yeah, so the drought and the rain are two different issues, but when combined, they can be more of a problem than one or the other independently. In a drought, what happens? We were talking about how the root system is in the top 12 or 24 inches of soil, and that's what dries out first. So you lose all of the feeder roots in a severe drought, like what we were having, and so the trees are already. This root system's already damaged. They're unable to take up as much water, and then if you've got waterlogged soil, you also have a problem in that will kill feeder roots as well. So whatever root system wasn't damaged by the drought, now you've got all of this inundation that can cause as much damage as the drought. And when you have the back and forth, that stresses the tree as well. So it's the 1-2 punch. With droughts, we often see damage, 4, 6, 8 years down the road because it takes that long for a mature tree to reestablish its root systems. And we're still seeing damage from the last 3 springs, which were record-breaking rains. And now we're going to have, possibly the combination of that this summer. So the weather is weird, take care of your trees as best you can.
And Skeet, I bet you're seeing a lot of that. In addition to storm damage, you're seeing drought and damage from excessive rain too, right?
Exactly, and Julie really nailed it there, and that's why we recommend watering in between rainfall, because we can keep those little feeder roots alive, and more is not better. Roots actually suffocate. They need the oxygen. So we want to water in between periods of rainfall. So we have these heavy rainfalls. The tree still has a viable root system, and watering every day is not good. Watering once a week is good because, again, that tree needs the oxygen. There's no magical mouth part at the trunk of the tree. You don't plug in the hose to the trunk of the tree. The little feeder roots are on the outside. So we can go on and on. We can talk all about watering, and we can have some fun with that another day.
But the point is, if you're in drought, water your tree, water deeply and infrequently. I mean, not like once a week, but deeply. And so that the roots chase the water down. Don't sprinkle it lightly, because as I've often said, you're telling the tree that it doesn't need roots. If you're out there giving it, a little drop every day, as you say, that can be a problem. All right, really quickly, because Julie, you sent this to me. Planting a tree. I want to get right to this. There's one in a container. I gotta mention something though. When I saw this photo and I look at the caliper of that tree and the size of the container, how small the container is, that's a large caliper for that. And caliper is the size, the diameter of the trunk. That tree has had, and they say that you lose 95% of the roots when you dig up a tree to put it in a container and sell it to somebody or around that. That tree looks like it had a lot of roots removed to me. Julie?
Well, Mike, some of these trees are container grown though, so you may actually have the entire root system of this tree. And caliper is measured sort of at chest level, so you're not really seeing. This is probably only about an inch in caliper further up the tree.
Well, okay, here we go here.
So
it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
right.
all the way up. I'm sorry.
Should have been transplanted earlier. You're correct.
I'm just thinking that was, and I'm not trying to call you out. I was just kind of taken by this. I looked at that and I went, wow, that tree needs to get in the ground now. It needs to get some roots going.
Right. But what I want you to notice in this picture is that that root flare that Skeet was talking about, that in those other trees was buried, that caused the circling roots. One, there were no circling roots in that pot. Two, you can see the root flare above the soil line, which is really important. A lot of trees get planted too deeply, and down the road it causes a lot of problems and even plant death because it girdles the tree over time. And then the other thing to notice is that, the hole is much, it is much wider than the actual tree, and it's planted exactly at level with the soil level. So
at grade is what they say.
At grade with the soil. So that's what you're really looking at in these pictures, and that was what the demonstration was about. And then, of course, water it in, and you're going to mulch to keep that soil moisture in to protect it from lawn equipment. But you're going to want to keep that mulch at least 4 or 5 inches away from the base of the tree so that it doesn't hold water against the bark and damage the bark.
And here you can see the root flare. You can see that it's above ground, which is what you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole demonstration was about, is to make sure you're planting at proper depth, to make sure you're giving this root system a chance to spread out, that you're keeping the mulch away. No volcano mulching, please. We're really trying to encourage people not to do that.
That's our favorite topic here.
Yeah. And then also, as you were saying, make sure to keep it watered. And there are lots of ways you can water a new tree. The gator bags work. The watering by hand is fine. But just making sure, especially newer trees need more water than older trees do. But older trees still need consistent watering to keep that fine feeder root system alive.
I have to say, if that's the same tree, boy, it leafed out nice.
Different tree.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if okay. And again, I'm not trying to bust you here. I just looked at that I went, no, I just looked at that and I thought, wow, that's a large caliper for such a small root ball. That was interesting. Skeet, you got any observations there about planting before we go?
Right tree, right spot, right way, right time of the year, and right things will happen.
Fantastic. That's a great way to wrap up. Skeet from Bartlett. Yes, Peggy.
Hang on.
We got the label.
We need the answer to the label.
Oh my gosh. You're right. Thank you so much. I
have a guess. Deborah Moulton said window washer fluid.
Let me get that label back up here. Here we go. There's the label. And we were wondering what that was. Like I said, I don't have a clue. What did you say it was, Peggy?
Well, Deb suggested window washing fluid. My guess was going to be charcoal lighter.
And I was going to say I don't even know what I can't remember. I had something in mind, but I cannot remember what it was that. Aspartame is what I'm going to say. What is it?
Lantern fuel.
Skeet, can you tell us?
Sure.
WD-40.
Want to put me back up?
Yeah, I will put you back up. And in fact, let me get
Here's the label.
Okay, Deb gets it. Woohoo!
And that is windshield wiper fluid.
Deborah Moulton got it.
If I can pop that out,
nice.
hold still. There we go.
Yep.
All right, Deb.
Deb, we're going to have to send you something. We'll send you a valuable Wally prize of some kind, okay? There you go.
And it says, "See safe." And there's our label. So as Julie and I were speaking about, we've got all these different products, and yet how many people take windshield wiper fluid right off the shelf and put it right in their car and really didn't read a label about how dangerous this stuff is? How many times we put this in our car with the car running and it says danger, poison, flammable.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I mean, labels are the law. I mean, this is critical. So we talk about chemical damage and we talk about chemicals. We use these every day. And what we've shown is as the exceptions. Every day I'm not looking at chemical damage in trees. So people are using it safely. People are using it correctly. And we just, this is more of an exception to the rule. And when I do garden talks and do presentations and put that slide up and then pull up windshield wiper fluid, boy, the chins hit the ground and say, boy, I never knew. And this is something we think is safe and we use safely. Well, and we really just need to be aware of what we're using and how we're using it.
Yeah, and folks will say, well, what else would I use? But the point is, these chemicals are out there. We mentioned glyphosate in Roundup, and Julie, you seem to be champing at the bit to say something here.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that there are proper uses for all of these chemicals, and there are legal ways to use them properly. Just be aware that there are some downsides to a lot of these. And now the garden chemicals, the government has required that if it's a danger for bees, that there's actually a new bee label on there if it can damage bee populations. So look for that as well if you're really trying to garden for pollinators. You know, you don't want to be using those types of products in your yard, even though they may be effective and safe if you use them another way, use them properly.
Again, read and follow.
Read the label.
Read and follow label directions, folks. Please, 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 please.
And ask if you really need to use it.
Ask that first. It's because I'm telling you, most of the time you don't need it. I'm telling you, there's no point. It's a little bit of brainwashing going on. So think about it first. Think before you reach for the chemical on the shelf. Listen, Skeet, thank you so much for being here once again. Julie, this was fabulous. We got in a ton of information here, and we're way over time as well, but that's okay. We got to get to our next guest. So thank you both. You have a wonderful 4th of July, and I hope we see you very, very soon. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking about piping plovers or plovers, whatever, when we come back.
Hi, I'm Vic Nakashima with Bartlett Tree Experts. You know, when a tree grows in its ideal form, it's amazing how it's naturally engineered to withstand the challenges of weather and time. But defects in trees are common and make it more likely that a tree or branch will fall over the course of time or in severe weather. Some of these defects can be addressed by the addition of support systems. These systems should be installed by an arborist, one who has specific expertise in following established industry standards to help ensure safety and effectiveness, and that the correct tools and equipment are used. A weak branch union, or V-crotch, is one common defect. It may be found close to the ground or higher up in the tree's canopy. Either way, it puts the tree at a serious disadvantage. Excessive movement of these two stems can push the strength of this union past its capacity and cause it to break. So it could use some additional support, an advantage if you will. We can help limit the movement of these two stems by cabling them together higher up in the canopy of the tree. Some trees may also benefit from a bracing rod, which is a threaded rod installed directly through the branch unit. These add strength to the defective area when it experiences excessive force, often caused by these stems twisting in the wind. For over a century, Bartlett Tree Experts has been developing cabling and bracing systems that have become the industry's standard. We can design and install a support system that can help minimize the impact a defect has on your tree and help it to weather the storm.
Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash?
Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root and bacon. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene. Give me all that I can take.
And welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Bob, I'm going to start by just apologizing to you because we ran roughshod over your time here, but we'll get in a lot of information here too. Bob Dolgan is the author of This Week in Birding. He's the founder of it as well. And welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you, Mike. Good to be with you, Peggy. Thanks so much for having me.
And we're here to do our update. It's the 4th of July. People are thinking about getting out, going to the parks. And when they think about going to the parks, they think of going to Montrose Beach. That's for sure. It's the most popular beach in the visible universe. Well, certainly in Chicago. And when they get there right now, Bob, and by the way, the reason Bob is here because he's been on the show before to talk about Monty and Rose, the piping plovers, who have, I call them Chicago's first couple, and I think other people do. And they have produced offspring, which are now have gone to places like Lake Erie and are producing more offspring. This is such a great story. This is a success story for conservation, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, 4th of July, talking to you today, this is like one of the pivotal days in the past 3 years of piping plovers in Chicago at Montrose Beach, because we have to mount such a mighty effort among the volunteers to make sure the fireworks that are sometimes not very legal that are being set off are far, far away from the piping plovers. But yeah, the story continues to unfold. And for people who don't know or just tuning in for the first time, the piping plovers, Monty and Rose, nested in Chicago in 2019 at Montrose Beach, becoming the first piping plovers since 1948 to successfully nest in the city limits. And I think it took everybody by surprise, mostly because there are only about 70 pairs or so of Great Lakes piping plovers left. They're federally endangered. And the story has continued. The birds have come back now for 3 summers in a row. And one of their chicks from last year has struck out on his own and become a pioneer in Ohio, a chick by the name of Nish, who's now nested with another bird, Nellie, and just recently, a few days ago, hatched 4 chicks in Ohio. So the story and the Monty and Rose legacy just live on and on.
That is so cool. I mean, you can go to my website, by the way, folks, my blog post, go to MikeNovak.net, and I've got a link to that story about the success in Ohio. And they're plotzing over this as much as Chicagoans did, because it's been 83 years since nesting plovers were successful on Lake Erie there. So this continue one after another. I mean, what's going to be next? Where are they going to go next and set the world on fire?
Right. Yeah, no, it is. It's amazing. The story just keeps expanding and evolving. And maybe there's something about these beaches kind of on the lower Great Lakes or on the southern end of the Great Lakes that, haven't had piping plovers in a lot of years, decades, really. And these birds are starting to recolonize them, which is incredible, because that just hadn't happened for so long. And maybe it means that the restoration work that has taken place at beaches, as well as the effort to increase the numbers of plovers through tracking and banding and even captive rearing, are making a difference. And the fact that Chicago and a metropolis could be one of the areas where the population growth takes place is just, I think, one of the coolest and least likely aspects of this story. But yes, we've had through the years 200 plus volunteers have been out at Montrose Beach protecting these birds dawn to dusk, and Ohio is quickly getting up to speed, and they're experiencing that thrill of the first summer of having piping plovers, and people are really getting into it there. And there's a mighty effort there at a state park, Maumee Bay, which is a very different location in many ways versus a place like Montrose Beach, but not that different in others, in that it's another Great Lakes site with a big sandy beach. So it's pretty cool to observe all this.
a big sandy beach and probably a big population, person population there too.
I mean, they've got, they also have, it's a very busy area that people go camping there. People have a boat stock there. There's a resort, a lodge, a golf course. So there are a lot of people around, but the great thing is it's also an opportunity to educate the public.
Yeah, it's high visibility.
Very much so, yeah. And the people, I got a chance to visit Ohio, and people there, like, who were there for a weekend trip, just kind of taking a walk or going for a bike ride, they were just coming up nonstop asking, like, what's going on over here, when they saw the binoculars and scopes, and we explained it to them, and they were like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, generally the response has been like, wow, I get to see like a really endangered species right in my backyard. And that's what's been so cool about this in Chicago and now in the Toledo area over there in Ohio.
Yeah. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit, and the people out there, and I want to direct this at Peggy as well, because Peggy, you have for a long time have been a conservationist for the Great Lakes, and as a boater, you've been out there and you've seen the changes. Bob, you alluded to the changes a few minutes ago, and they didn't happen by accident. They happened because dedicated people like you, Bob, and other stewards, Leslie Bournes, and all the other folks who are out there have put in plants, and have fought to get acreage set aside for endangered species, whether it's plants or animals. And Peggy, you've seen that happen over the last couple of decades, haven't you?
Yeah, just more and more concern, awareness. I think Alliance for the Great Lakes having the annual Adopt a Beach cleanups has greatly elevated the visibility of the issues. And the more we hear about things like microplastics, the more that's out in the news and people are aware of it. I think, as you say, Bob, it's high visibility. It's things people are paying attention to.
Yeah, and I think yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say not just there, but also the stewards at the forest preserves, for example. I'm thinking like LaBagh Woods and everything happening there, in Chicago Audubon and Chicago Ornithological Society and all the other groups.
Yeah, definitely. It's all these small parcels of land where habitat can be restored make a difference. And even if it's one breeding bird species, might not be something as rare as a piping plover. It might just be your rose-breasted grosbeak, or it really could be your neighborhood birds. It could be your cardinals and red-winged blackbirds. I mean, that all makes a difference. And I think what's happened at Montrose Beach is that the dunes that site there, so much time and effort has gone into nurturing it that it became very hospitable for all sorts of birds as a migratory stopover. And then this was just like the put the icing on the cake by having a pair of rare birds decide to nest there. But it's because of really hands-on volunteering people who were really just wanted to do something to help out their local habitat. And it also might not be birds. It could be your monarch butterflies. It could be a dragonfly species. It could be your bumblebees. It can be, yeah.
And the lands are so fragmented that every single square foot counts. And I was just showing here, this is Nish and Nellie. I guess Nellie and Nish in that order, but this is in Ohio. And it looks like they are imprisoned. Maybe you want to explain what the cage is all about, Bob.
Yeah, it's not a prison. It's a good thing. These wire exclosures are put up over most of the Great Lakes piping plover nests to keep predators out, and even people in some cases when there's a nest established with eggs. As you can see, the nest is there. It's under the bird that's positioned seated on the ground. The nests are nothing more than a simple scrape, and so when that takes place, the exclosure is placed by wildlife officials, and the openings are big enough for piping plovers to move in and out, but they're small enough that predators can't get in. Although with one big exception, we had a situation here in Chicago about a month ago where a skunk did get in. But generally, these are highly effective, and they're placed because it is such a fragile situation there. And shorebirds, maybe even more so than other birds, their nests are very exposed, very much at risk. It's not, they nest right out in the open. They're not going to be high up in a tree anywhere, or even in grass. So they're right out in the sand. So there's a lot of potential for incidents or accidents to happen. So these exclosures are really, really important.
And as you mentioned, it happened here in Chicago, and the eggs, all 4 eggs were eaten by a skunk. But guess what? Monty and Rose just said, okay, that's nature, and we will go out and start again. And they did, and they've produced 4 more eggs, and they're sitting on those right now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're within about a week, I'd say, or so. We could anticipate hatching, and as difficult as it was to see that first nest get taken, the birds within that day were exhibiting mating and nesting behavior again, and so they're resilient. They quickly move on. They don't experience feelings in the same way that humans do, and they've also experienced that before in their first year in Chicago, unfortunately, due to a storm that came in off Lake Michigan with high water. That took out their first nest, and similarly, they quickly found a new place to nest and began courtship, and then Rose began laying eggs. So it's all signs are that things are good out at Montrose. It's been very quiet since that skunk attack, but quiet is what we like. Quiet is good. So
yeah.
we would just.
And of course, Monty and Rose are saying, "What? We got a mate again? Oh man, that's such a drag." You don't get humans saying that. But all right, so that takes us to another reason why you're here today. Because if people go out to Montrose Beach, if they go out to what is called the Magic Hedge, which is part of the Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary out there, they're going to see something like this. What is going on, Bob?
And enclosure signs.
Yeah, yeah, they won't be able to walk through
that's true.
Much of the sanctuary.
Yeah, so, the Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary, which is a separate area from the beach, this is a wooded area that's grown up through the years and also been nurtured by volunteers. It's an incredible birding locale, both for migratory species and for nesting species. We have, 20 plus species that nest there in the summertime. And when you're talking migration, this is like a top 5 locale nationally. I mean, we've had 350 species or thereabouts recorded here. We had in the waters offshore in November 2019, an ancient murrelet, a seabird from the Pacific Northwest, was identified there. We've had the state's first Cassin's kingbird identified there in recent years. So this is an incredible locale, and I wrote about this for This Week in Birding, the construction that's underway. And what's happening is that an accessible path for people with disabilities is being put in. And I think what's happened is there hasn't been particularly consistent communication about this. We have a lot of people using this location, both for birding. We had 3,000 checklists submitted here for bird purposes this past spring. But you have a lot of people who just go out and want to get some fresh air and go for a walk, and you just have a lot of people who now are blocked from there. And, the actual project is not the problem. I think it's just taken aback by the extent of the changes and the suddenness with which the sanctuary was closed. There had been some notices about it, but even I, as a regular user, was taken aback when, on June 15th, I believe was the date, all of a sudden the fences were up, the bulldozers were there, and it's like, gosh, maybe just let us know the exact date. And you had people coming in from out of town to visit this place, and they had to be turned away, and they didn't get to experience it. So the opportunity here is to educate about Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary, about all of the birds and natural areas we have on the lakefront. And, let's fingers crossed this work will be done before the thick of fall migration, which starts in August. And more people, people with disabilities and limited mobility will be able to use the site, which is wonderful. But I think there will need to be some continued focus on this, to make sure that any vegetation that was taken out is restored. And unfortunately, there was one person who believes that nesting red-winged blackbirds were affected by this, perhaps eggs in the nest. And it's, you may say, well, they're just a common breeding species. Well, no, they're actually A, declining in numbers, and B, I would argue that any nesting species in a metropolis like this, we almost need to value it more and take more care to protect those birds. And if somebody needs to go out there and walk the site with them in the future, I'd volunteer to do that and point out every single nest where they can move around and keep things going.
And I think the big surprise is that this is happening, as you're saying, right in the middle of nesting season, as opposed to, say, over the winter.
Right, and there had been some consultation with birding organizations, so I don't want to say it was completely, out of the blue, but still, that if it is going to happen like that, there needs to be some specific, steps taken, both to walk the site, to observe the site, and coordinate with the park district, with birders, with biologists. And if that happened, maybe it happened, but I'm not aware of it.
Well, that's a really good point.
Component to it, where we can celebrate this location as well.
Yeah, I just want to say that, okay, this is the park district doing the Chicago Park District, and they happen to have this information up on their website, which you pointed out to me. The point,
and it's not new. It didn't just appear this year.
And they've been working on this project from since 2015, and then last year they got the IDNR, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Recreation Trails Program, awarded a grant to the Park District for the construction of the ADA accessible pathway. All good so far. In fact, the pathway, the footprint of it, it's an 8-foot wide, 1/3 of a mile long loop that travels near the areas known as the Magic Hedge and the Magic Clump and the Tangle. In many places, this will be narrower than the current mulch trails, and that's a good thing too. The idea is keep people off, keep them from running into the natural area, and in that way it's going to be a good thing. So there's a number of reasons why this is actually a pretty good thing. I mean, we're in a city. You want it to be accessible to everybody. Your point is the communication, perhaps the transparency of the Park District could have been better.
Yeah, and I wrote this in the piece, in that you just have, like, there's a whole discipline, there's a way to communicate public issues, and there's a public and community engagement that is part of something like this. And when you look back, that was done in about 2015, 2016, but that's a long time ago. And I realize these grants have long life cycles, and it takes time to put together these projects. But there's a whole new generation of birders who've emerged since 2015, 16, a new group of park users who had no idea about this. And that's always going to be always going to be new people coming into an issue or to a public locale like this. And then we had the pandemic hit, and my gosh, that completely changed the dynamics. We had all sorts of people who'd not really been birding before coming out for the first time. I can think of a couple dozen offhand who I didn't know pre-pandemic, but I've gotten to know because they're now birders. And so these people have no idea about the project. And so for them, this spring might have been their first really at Montrose and experiencing the delights of migration, which is unique event. I mean, you get to see warbler species, up to 36 of them, very up close, that you people, fly to places like southern Texas, Central America, South America to see these kinds of birds on tours. Here we get to see them up close, right in a city, right in the not far from downtown, and so there are positives here in that more people will be able to utilize the location, and I think in the meantime it's kind of figuring out what can be, how can this be salvaged as a positive and not as something that people are just walking away frustrated by. Because there's no need for that, especially when you have such an incredible location that has emerged in our city over the past 20, 30 years.
What I would say is, if you can't keep your primary stewards of the area in communication, you can't communicate with them, something's wrong. These are the people like you and a lot of the others who have watched this area and have worked very hard on it. If you don't know what's going on, that's a problem, okay? Because you're the people who are there every day. You're there every day. Some people come by once a year or once a month or something, but the city, and I've seen this before, with the city, transparency is not their biggest asset. Communication is often lacking. And even though and again, I will say, you should go to the link that I have from the Park District on my website, and it's laid out rather nicely. It explains.
Posted it here too.
Yeah, explains everything. Now, when you do that, go to people like Bob and Leslie Bournes and some of the others and say, okay, here's what we have in mind, and it's going to start on June 15th, instead of walking in one day and the barriers are up.
Yeah, and I should also say that a lot of the people involved in this, the vast majority who are there regularly, are volunteers. These are not paid staff, so it almost seems even more important that they be brought into the process. And I again, I don't want to say that I do think that site stewards were likely notified, but they're volunteers who are focused on habitat restoration, getting the saplings in, getting the seedlings in, clearing brush, clearing invasives. They're not people who are communications or PR agencies that are going to then mount an effort to educate the public. And so I think and I'm sure they notified their volunteers, but I think there's just a big opportunity here to actually celebrate the beauty we have there at Montrose Point, all of the lakefront natural areas, from up on Howard Street all the way south to Calumet Park, and all the points in between, South Shore Nature Sanctuary, you name it. All of those locations are very important for people and birds, and so I think it's making sure that people know that they're available and that they exist, but B, also that if drastic changes are happening, that there's a robust public dialogue about it.
Exactly, robust public dialogue. That works for me. Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it, Peggy?
And an understanding of why it's happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're bumping into DiMaio time. So, Bob Dolgan, This Week in Birding. If folks want to follow your newsletter, where do they go?
Yeah, go to TWIB, which stands for This Week in Birding, TWIB, Chicago.com. Make sure Chicago.com. TWIBchicago.com. Sorry, I have an org, I have a net. Make sure it's TWIBchicago.com.
Yeah, I always have the same problem. So, Bob, thank you so much, and good luck with everything. And I hope that you don't have too many irate people who come by and can't walk through the bird sanctuary. But that's why you guys are there. You're the liaison with the public. So, good luck on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have a great 4th of July.
Oh yeah, you too. Speaking of 4th of July and things to do, part of it involves the weather. Rick DiMaio is coming up next. Whether you're a farmer or a backyard gardener, assist your soil in providing key nutrients to your plants with Spectrum Soil Inoculum from Tineo Biologicals. The beneficial microorganisms in Spectrum break down and release vital nutrients and make them more accessible to your plants. Spectrum works with nature to decompose organic matter into humus, building richer, healthier soil. Spectrum is approved for use on certified organic crops and is OMRI listed. Get Spectrum at blazing-star.com.
Life is an ocean, streaming alone, ripples of motion, hitting us all. Yeah, yeah.
Dive in, your time to win. Our hearts all in. Let's let the fun begin. Take a dive, take a dive, take a dive. I see you climbing high. I see you climbing high. Take a dive, take a dive, take a dive. I see you climbing high. I see you climbing high. I see you climbing high. Dive smart, dive smart, dive hard, dive hard, dive hard, dive hard, dive in. Dive smart, dive smart, dive hard, dive hard, dive hard, dive hard.
You can help slow climate change in 2021 by composting. And you don't even need a backyard. By composting communally in multi-unit buildings across Chicagoland, Collective Resource Compost has diverted 7,000 tons of food scrap since 2010. CRC brings you a fresh 5-gallon bucket or a 32-gallon neighbor tote with each pickup. You fill it with organic matter, they swap it out, and get it to a commercial composting operation. Fight climate change. Go to collectiveresource.us.
If the water is flowing at the low water crossing, turn around, turn around. Don't risk your life, don't do it. You might not make it through it. Turn around, turn around. Might take a little time to heed the warning signs and turn around, turn around, turn around, and don't drown.
And there's a message that I think Rick DiMaio, that was actually for you, because I saw that PSA. I saw it on the inner tubes, probably on YouTube, and I thought of all the water we had here last week and all the people are going to try to drive through it. And they had, I don't know if you saw the images there, but some of the images were just amazing. And it doesn't take much. You just get a few inches of water. Yeah, it's not much, and it'll just lift your car and take you away. So please be smart, folks, when you're out there driving and there's flooding going on. It's not as safe as, and it's interesting. People, they're going to slow down and go through the water, and then as they slow down, that just lifts everything up. You might as well charge through it just if you're going to do something stupid. So anyway, that's my my safety tip for the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to you, Rick.
Yeah, down with the British, right?
Yeah, whatever. I wore.
Have you ever seen the movie The Great Escape, when they finally figured out how to make moonshine, and they're Happy Independence Day, down with the British, because that was obviously during World War II.
Right.
But I was like.
No, go ahead. That's I had forgotten that reference from the movie. Although it is, I love that movie. I love that film. It's
almost like 3 movies. But yeah, good morning to you and Peg. And I just finished a 10-mile bike ride. That's why my hair was all kind of sweaty and wet. And I also took a dive in Lake Michigan off the Northwestern University rocks, as they call them, the NU rocks. And the water, Peg, if you haven't been in it yet.
It's probably pretty chilly.
It's chilly, but it's not as cold as last week. And I was actually talking to someone who was about to do the same thing I was going to do. And she goes, so tell me, how's the water? I go, it's chilly, but as long as you start to swim, it's okay. She goes, because I tried to go in there on Monday, and it was freezing. And Monday, it was literally like 55 degrees. But it's probably about 63 or 64 right now.
And I haven't had the westerly going long enough.
Yeah, and we've had some east winds, but unfortunately, it was a cool day with the northeast winds. And in addition to that, you get a lot of sediment buildup. So I tried to go swimming about 20, 30 feet offshore, and you couldn't see more than 2 or 3 feet in front of your eyes. So the swimming conditions are definitely not the best. The good news is the rip currents from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are all gone. And overall, I mean, driving along the lakefront yesterday, along Sheridan Road, I went up to Chalet to pick up a couple of plants, and you could always tell how cold the water is by the ratio of the number of people on the beach and the number of people not in the water. It was like literally 80% on the beach and 20% in the water, and that's always, I think, a really amazing thing to see. By the way, guys, speaking of Chalet, I was at the Lincoln Park farmers market yesterday. I'm kind of done with the Evanston one because it's still in a parking lot and I hate it. But the Lincoln Park, I'm serious, but the Lincoln Park farmers market is only about half the size due to probably COVID restrictions and people not feeling comfortable about coming back. I got this. I don't know if you guys can see it. See that hanging basket?
Yeah, I've got it up on the screen. Yeah, go the other way. The other way. There we go.
Right there. Okay. I got that hanging basket. Anybody want to take a guess how much it cost me?
$5.
$5? Are you kidding me? I got to make a little bit of a profit.
Okay. Well, you asked me to guess.
Well, that was a terrible guess. You would be awful on The Price is Right. What about you, Peg? What do you think?
I think you should tell us, Rick.
$25. $25, which isn't bad.
Okay.
And I said, okay, now I have to kind of match them up, or match that up with some other plants. I went to Chalet, and then these are from Chalet. Anybody want to take a guess?
No, because
I went from a farmer's market to Wilmette. So there you go, a little bit of a difference there.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And why do I think I'm going to get in trouble for this? Okay.
No, they were $40.
Okay.
So
together?
What I'm saying is,
together or each?
Oh, goof. They were $40 a piece. What do you like? These places have to make money. So the bottom line is, you just don't go to farmers market to get fruits and vegetables. They have amazing flowers there and amazing plants.
Oh yeah. That is absolutely true. By the way, our friend Robert said he just got out of Montrose. He said it was very cold. So he was swimming there. And I want to note also regarding our last segment, Judy Pollock wrote. She said, talking about the construction there at Montrose Beach, she says, this was debated for weeks beforehand on birding Facebook pages, and the info was shared. Notices went out to the Bird Club members. Okay. Apparently some people missed it. I don't know why. But thank you for the additional information, Judy. We really appreciate it. All right. Rick, I want to put up a graphic that you sent me, and this is not your typical graphic that you use, but I think this reflects what's happened in the past month pretty much more than anything, and it's this one. The change.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like the snapshot.
Yeah.
Other than the fact Illinois is spelled wrong. I just saw that.
Yeah, it's got.
Oh, maybe.
It's hard to tell.
Well, moving right along.
Well, no, it almost looks like it's ILIINOIS, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
It looks kind of weird.
I'll readjust my contacts on that. Yeah.
But from January 1st to June 10th, we had 6.96 inches of precipitation, 2 days with thunderstorms, and then in a 19-day period, 10-day period.
No.
19
No, that would
period.
be a 20 days. That's 20 days.
Yeah. It's 6.77 inches, 11 days with thunderstorms. Wow.
Yeah, and notice also 55% of those days, literally it was every other day we had thunder during that period of time. It was really amazing how we broke out of this drought, especially in areas from Southern Lake and Southern McHenry County southward. But again, Mike and Peg, you look at Rockford, and since or from the 1st of June to the 30th of June, literally the entire 30-day period there, they had 1.26 inches of rain. So again, it was that little sliver. Yeah, there was that little sliver, and you can probably see that more so on the graphic on the right. That's the precipitation percent. And it really is amazing how little rainfall they had. Because what this shows you here is the map on the left is the temperature departure from normal, and the map on the right is percent precipitation. So it's not actually quantifiable numbers. They're kind of qualitative there. But the bottom line is, when you start to look at areas still to the north and west of us, they're in extreme drought. However, when I was driving through southern areas of Wisconsin last week, the cornfields still look pretty darn good. And then another telling map is this. There were areas of northern McHenry County and southern Walworth County, which is where I was driving through, that easily had over 2.5 to 3 inches of rain. So that drought indicator map that still shows severe drought, I don't think it's really picking up some of those areas that got the heavier rainfall across northern McHenry. Yeah, that one right there. I think if you go right across the state line, because where I go up in southern Walworth County, you're literally right along County Road 50 there. The farm fields look great. So I got a feeling that this map is probably overdoing it from a standpoint of the D3. And part of that is the resolution of the grid spacing that they're using is probably a grid point from, say, Rockford to maybe Crystal Lake to maybe Waukegan to Racine to Lake Geneva. And they're kind of like looking in that area. But if you would do probably a real high-resolution detailed map of where the precipitation is or was, I think that D3 is going to be a lot less than what it's showing there.
And parts will have had rain where others didn't.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that previous map that you were showing, Mike, I think is more emblematic of the fact that the rain that did come down came down really, really hard, and it literally flooded some of the areas, like you mentioned before about the flooding. I mean, last Saturday, we had areas, that particular map, last Saturday, I mean, we had flooding on Lakeshore Drive. South Chicago Heights was completely underwater. Areas of Brookfield and LaGrange had almost 4 inches of rain. I mean, the streets were flooded up to, halfway up the wheel wells on certain cars. So this is why precipitation analysis is really, really difficult, because you're trying to get all these different, spots on a map that are sometimes not more than, 2 miles away. But again, when you look at, like Rockford during that particular period of time, a quarter of an inch. I think this is over my screen is covering up the title up on the top, but I think this is that same like 20-day period of time. Again, it depends on where you were. You either were feast or famine. And again, how many times have we said this? The areas that got the heavy rain, Bloomington, Pontiac, up to Kankakee, didn't need it. Matter of fact, there was one COCO-RAS station, and COCO means collaborative community effort for rain, hail, and snow. There's one spot east and northeast of Bloomington that so far, Mike and Peg, for the month of June has had 14.53 inches of rain. That's absurd. Wow. So there was some areas on I-70, last week that were completely flooded, and yet other areas to the north that were still kind of in that drought. So again, I don't think this drought is probably as severe as that map shows. Nonetheless, this is the information that I put together. It still shows you that there's a still heck of a lot of rain that's needed, between 5 and as much as 8 inches down since the first of the month. First of the year. So what we've done is we've actually taken care of the topsoil, the first 4 inches. Now we get into the subsoil, which is the next 4 inches, and that's where we really need to get some of that rainfall to kind of percolate down into the soil. And I was watching.
You can see this here. Rockford and Waukegan are still 8 and 9 inches down, basically. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And again, it's those two sites that are the ones that are used for the climate diagnostic tool that generates the drought monitor. Mm-hmm. So because those two sites are so low, it draws in that severe drought. But in between that, there's at least 3 or 4 stations that probably got an additional 3 or 4 inches of rain. Now, the good news is that we're not going to get into any really long-term period of high heat or high humidity, or what we refer to as high evaporation rates. Because this time of year, with the high sun angle and the fact that you can get still easily 85, 90 degrees without getting too warm this time of the year with the sun, you can evaporate about a 1/4 inch of moisture off that topsoil. And that means that over the course of 4 days, you lose 1 inch. So the bottom line is, even though we got up to 86 yesterday, we'll probably get up to 89 today. It looks like another hot day tomorrow, but then it looks like a really good chance for some soaking rains both Tuesday and Wednesday night. But as you can see, the long-term, large-scale heat, believe it or not, I hate to say this, it rebuilds across the western part of the United States, and we actually go back into somewhat of a cooler pattern. So this would be the 6 to 10 day beginning, I believe.
Okay, that's
on the. I think it's. I'm trying to think. It goes from I think the 12th. Yeah, I think it goes from the 12th. It's basically all of next week. The 12th to the 17th is what it is. So most of next week turns wetter Tuesday and Wednesday, and then after that we get right back into the northeast winds. So I would not be surprised if we get a decent heavy thunderstorm over Rockford or Waukegan. That little area of severe drought is probably going to go away. And again, this is now the 8 to 14 day. This is 2 weeks out. And this is showing you how that heat continues to build across the western part of the United States.
I'm kind of interested in this map you sent. What are we looking at here?
Okay, so this is the day 1 through day 7, beginning today through next Saturday. So this is a 7-day QPF, or quantitative precipitation forecast. So what it shows you is that this frontal boundary is going to kind of be sinking southward, and along that west-southwest, east-northeast front, we're going to get several thunderstorms that are going to train along that boundary. So areas of central Iowa, northwest Illinois, and you can see even up into central Wisconsin look pretty good from a standpoint of getting at least 2.5 to 3 inches of rain. Now, one of the neat things I always love doing when I go to the farmers markets, I talk to the farmers and I ask them, how are your crops? How are your fields? I talked to one guy from Beloit, Mike and Peg. He said it's the worst we've ever seen. I talked to one guy from Berrien, Michigan, where I bought a whole bunch of grapes. Because after you talk to them, you feel like you have to buy some things from them. So I bought a whole bunch of grapes, cherries and blueberries. And he said, rain's from God. The heavens opened up just in time, and they had almost 8 inches of rain over the last 2 weeks. So again, it's really weird. Parts of southwest Michigan doused with rain. Parts of northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, very little. And there you see it. That's the 7-day precipitation total, and it shows you 4 to 5 inches, pretty much from like north of St. Louis right up into southwest lower Michigan. And I wouldn't be surprised if when they released the Lake Michigan water levels, I didn't see them this past week, but I wouldn't be surprised if the lake level is up maybe another 2, 3, or 4 inches. But I went down to the lakefront on the day that it was windy. Peg, do you remember which day it was really windy? I forget.
Off the top now.
Was it? Yeah, I think
Couple
it was.
days ago.
I think it was like Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday. Okay.
Early in the week.
Yeah,
I think it was Thursday. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, because the rip currents were still going Friday, so I think it was Wednesday into Thursday. The winds were picking up Wednesday.
Yeah, I went down to the lakefront, and I was watching the waves come in, and they were about 4 or 5 feet, and they were probably a good solid 10 feet further into the lake where the waves were breaking compared to where they were last year at this time. And it's amazing how 20 inches of water will actually be a difference of about 10 feet from a standpoint of looking at how far it goes inland. Also depends on how the waves are breaking and also the angle of the shelf. So when you look at the percent of mean, again, look at this. You're at 400 to 500% again in the same areas.
Yeah.
But areas out west, Iowa, northwest Illinois, is where we have not gotten the rain that we need, unfortunately.
And here's the accumulated precipitation from June 2nd to July 1st.
Yeah, and this is one whole month. And again, Missouri, Central Illinois, southern central areas of Indiana, that southwest area of Michigan. Now, again, they don't grow as much corn in Missouri as they do here in Illinois, but we grow a lot in Illinois, number 2 in the country. Iowa's number 1. Nebraska is number 4. Minnesota is number 3, actually. So that same area across northern areas of Iowa into southern sections of Minnesota, they're still probably in need of about 6 to 10 inches of rain. But again, the heat doesn't get over us anytime soon. It stays out west. And as long as it stays out west, your evaporation rate is probably not going to be as high.
And there's one more here that I was kind of curious about, if I can pop this up. Calculated soil moisture.
Yeah, this is a great one. And this is the one that farmers use, especially during the time when the plants are in their infancy. In other words, when they're really beginning to get their roots down into the soil. But now you look at most corn plants right now, and they're probably, the whole adage is knee-high by the 4th of July, but it's more like waist-high now. We've seen corn easily waist-high. But I've seen this time of the year where they're getting into the pollination stage is usually about the second week of June. And what they want right now is decent rains followed by really warm weather. And I think we're going to get that. So the moisture that you see right here is literally 140% of normal for the first 4 inches. And again, this is that same area, subsoil moisture, or at least it's topsoil, probably the first 4 inches across Minnesota, parts of Iowa, and the North Illinois. So again, this is really, I think, from a standpoint of how it relates to rainfall over the last 30 days. Because sometimes you could be in a drought and you still got a lot of rain in the last 30 days. But this same area has not gotten rain in the last 30 days.
Okay, I am going to pop up something. Let's see if I've got it in here. Yeah, I just managed to get this up because you sent it recently. So we're looking at the hurricane, which will it be a hurricane when it gets to Florida?
I don't think so. It was a hurricane briefly. It's showing fantastic outflow. Right now, I just looked at the last satellite, and if you want, you can share that link with your listeners instead of sending you a animated GIF, which oftentimes takes up too much space. I don't think it's going to become one because the low-level flow is not the best. There's too much trade wind action into it. You really want the trade winds to kind of lighten up a little bit, and it's also moving over the island of Cuba. It's really, really rare for a tropical storm to move over Cuba. Cuba's got some pretty decent mountains, 4,000 feet. Well, not 4,000. I think they're about 2,500. Jamaica's got the 4,000-foot mountains. But it's going to be enough to weaken the flow. And at the same time, because it's not really getting energized or enough tightening of the inside core, it's not going to allow what we call the Coriolis force to take over and pull it to the right. So because it's a weak tropical storm, it'll continue to just get nudged further west. And that's great news for South Florida because this is going to have zero impact from a wind standpoint on the recovery effort down there in Surfside. Will it produce some rain? Yeah, but Florida's had off and on heavy rain down there the last 2 or 3 days. Will they get into 8 to 10 inches of rain? I don't think so. But all it takes is one band to move right over that area. And if you start getting, any sort of pooling of water in that, in that area where the building collapsed, who knows what it's going to do to some of the sediment? Is it going to drain parts of, some of the remains of the building, down to the bottom? So this may actually cause them to back off the site for maybe 1.5 to 2 days. But from a wind standpoint, it's going to have zero impact.
And I've gotten my Sharpie out, and I show it moving into Alabama. I don't know if that's happening, but no. probably not.
Yeah, I know Trump was down in Sarasota yesterday. I wonder if he mentioned the storm at all. We'll see. But hey, quickly, guys, before we get going, you want to talk about the haze in our sky the last couple of days?
Is that from fires?
I sent you guys many messages on that. You're not reading your email updates.
Oh, come on, man. Peggy, you read them, of course, right?
Fire?
Yeah. Oh,
you know, out west, it's coming east.
No. I'm thinking of email. Yeah. If it's the one you sent this morning, I did not read the one this morning.
Nope.
Anyway.
I didn't say that. This was 3 days ago.
Well, why don't you tell us, Rick?
Yes, it was a very hazy sunset last night. Yes.
Oh my God! Well, beginning on Thursday, after the low-level clouds cleared, the sky was almost opaque, and whenever I look up and I start to see smoke in the sky, the first thing I think of is, my God, the areas that it's burning must be unbelievably catastrophic for us to be getting their smoke. And what's really, really disheartening and tragic is the initial part of the smoke was probably from that awful fire in Lytton, British Columbia. That I think the death toll is easily going to top 1,000 in British Columbia. I think most of the people in that town, of 1,000 people, got out, but literally 90% of that town, the same one that had 113, 118, and 121, 90% of the town is gone. It's gone. Fire. Just literally went right through the town.
Like the one in California a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
the one in Paradise, the one where Trump didn't, remember, he didn't know where he was, and someone had to tell him, "Where am I?" Paradise. Oh yeah, Paradise.
He thought he was in
Iowa.
And so you go from the super hot temperatures that unbelievable to the fires.
Yeah. Now let me be clear. The smoke is completely not from the British Columbia fires. There's other fires that are burning in Manitoba and Ontario, but the fact that this is July. This is not August. It's already starting across Canada. Just tells you what is ahead of us. And Mike, when you showed that 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14 day, the heat rebuilds out west, and all it takes is one lightning strike, wind, maybe a power line goes down. So you know that the people in California and Oregon are just biding their time right now, waiting for something to happen. But just like we saw last year, we went through almost 2 weeks of haze in the sky. And if people really want to start to connect the dots between weather and climate, and it doesn't have to happen in your own backyard, just look at the sky. And this is all the wildfire smoke from British Columbia and Manitoba and Ontario. It's very sad.
And if I do, some guy on Facebook will yell at me and say that climate change doesn't exist, that it's just weather. So I know. Let's not go down that road. All right. So give us a forecast here.
All right. By the way, on this date in 1776, anybody want to take a guess what the temperature was at noontime in Philadelphia?
Well,
I sent you that in.
I saw
that.
Yes,
you did send that.
I was trying to read that graphic. It was very small, but all I know is from the news. It's hot as hell.
76 degrees in 1776.
Yeah. All they said was in the musical, it's hot as hell in Philadelphia. So there you go.
That's why they had to get out of there.
Yeah.
That's why they had to get. Yeah, but it was Thomas Jefferson, Mr. Renaissance man himself, scribbling it down. 76 degrees in Philadelphia in 1776. Pretty amazing stuff. We're not going to be 76 today. We'll get up probably to about 90. We had 86 yesterday. If we hit 90 today, I think that's going to be I want to say the 10th one. And I think we forgot to mention it, but June 2021 ended up being the 4th warmest on record, and I believe it was the 16th wettest on record. But
Amazing.
that period of time that you showed that we had that rain, that was only the 3rd time we've been that wet in that period since 1871 in Chicago. So we went from drought to literally the 3rd wettest. Really unbelievable. And if you think about it, the maximum rainfall actually missed the official recording station. So in some areas of Chicago area, it was the wettest ever. But the bottom line, near 90 today, near 90 tomorrow, looks like a really decent shot of rain tomorrow night, Monday night, into Tuesday and Wednesday. And then after that, it cools off for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Wind off the lake. and temperatures in the mid-70s. And that's always nice to have because my electric bill in the month of June last month was $217 compared to the $137 the year before.
Wow.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, I got you're not going to like me, but we have yet to turn on the air conditioning in this house. So this summer.
Yep. Don't invite me over for a sleepover, Mike.
Okay, I will not. Rick, thanks so much. Happy 4th of July to you. Have a great day, and we'll both talk to you next week.
What a send-off. Thanks, Mike. See you, Peg.
Oh, come on, man. All right. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia. How's that? All right, and he's gone. All right.
He froze in a grin and left the room.
Yeah, he just and left the room. Oh, well. We'll thank him first. Thanks, Rick, for dissing me on your way out the door. Okay. And for I think I'm getting a B- because I didn't see that particular email. I opened them all. I don't read it. I don't read every single article he sends me, but oh well. Thanks, Rick, for that. Thanks to Bob Dolgan from This Week in Birding. Thanks to Skeet. Thanks to Julie Janoski. See, I'm going in reverse order. Thanks to Kathleen for doing everything upstairs. Thanks to Lagata and Lagata Cam. And thanks to Basil. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Stadler?
What?
Is that it?
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.